Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here to review Big Mouth, or what's it called? The Big Mouth. And I know you're thinking, why? Why am I just reviewing this random movie today? Well, first off, I was gonna review John Wick Part 4, but it's just a little too late and I don't really feel like seeing it today, so I'll just watch it and review it tomorrow. And then I was thinking, oh, well, maybe I could do a Goosebumps book review. And then I thought, nah, it's too late today. The next book in the series I have to read is 2 hours long, so if I started that now, it would be 8:10 by the time I was finished. Then I'd have to do a video until 9 o'clock, and then I'd have to edit and upload it, and I don't have time to do that since I have to cook salmon patties for dinner, which I'm excited about. So, I actually happened to watch a movie last night that, oh, I just wanted to watch a movie. I just wanted to watch something for fun. I just wanted to uh, just watch something, interesting from a different time period, obviously, and, something with good acting and good story. And so I thought, Safi, for the longest time, she's been asking me to watch a Jerry Lewis movie. After I showed her King of Comedy, which was like 2019, 2020, so a long time ago. And she wanted me to watch The Disorderly Orderly, but that's not on Prime, I believe. So I just found this movie on Amazon Prime, and I thought, well, let's give it a go. The plot sounds really good. It's supposedly about this fisherman who comes across this dying guy, and the dying guy gives him a treasure map, and he's got to find the treasure before the bad guys do. It sounds like a classic adventure comedy with 1960s vibes to it too, which is always a plus. That being my favorite decade of film and everything else, television, etc. And I started to watch the movie, and I was like, this is okay. This is starting off on a very good foot, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to watch all the rest of Jerry Lewis's movies. And then, let's see, when did it fall apart? I'm literally looking up the minute mark. So, oh, there we go. Here it is. Minute 24:10. So 24 minutes and 10 seconds into the movie, it is a complete and utter disaster. It just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. It gets so bad. I was like, why the hell am I suffering through this movie if I don't have to review it? This is torture. It is utterly painful, awful. Ugh. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I am so glad it's not a fan request, because if it was a fan request, I would have made the fans so upset they would have become a hater for life, okay? Because this movie was so bad. And by the end of the movie, I was like, oh, thank God it's over. It's finally over. Just, ugh. Okay, so let's start off with the good stuff, when the movie was actually good, and I felt like, ooh, this is going to be a pretty good movie, although it started off pretty slow as well, even though it was a good kind of slow, where I felt like, okay, maybe they're just establishing character, and, I don't know. So it starts off on the beach. There's like a 3-minute long opening sequence with this 1960s cornball music. You know, the just the most annoying, obnoxious, squeaky sounds that you could think of are just the soundtrack of this movie. It is probably one of the worst movie soundtracks in film history. The soundtrack was so bad, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was having nightmares about this movie and about the soundtrack in the movie. It was so bad, I woke up, I was hearing the music in my head, and it was so bad. It was so annoying. It was like nails on a chalkboard bad. So then Jerry Lewis, and I hesitate to even call him by his character name. What was his character name? Gerald? Yeah, okay. That's just another word for Jerry. God, what a fucking egomaniac. So, this movie starts off, Jerry fishes and he catches a guy in a scuba diving suit, and it turns out to be his double, or a guy who looks exactly like him, and there is kind of a funny scene where he gives him a treasure map and he keeps on saying, wait a second, you promise you'll not give it to the bad guys, wait a second. And he keeps on saying, wait a second, as Jerry Lewis leaves the area. And that was pretty funny. Then the bad guys go after him. There are these bad guys on a boat. They're just hanging out on this boat the whole movie, these bad guys. Like, they're just in the ocean somewhere in this boat, and it's like their hideout, and oh god, I'm already sick and tired of this movie. So they start shooting at him, and then there's this narrator who comes into the movie, and the narrator is probably one of the worst characters in film history, because he is the most useless narrator ever. Like, he just says, like, the most obvious, plain Jane things that you can think of. Like, you know, this guy, he is in a big mess right now, and he is contemplating the different things that he can do, and it's going to go on from here now. And it's like, God, why are they wasting time cutting to this boring guy who I've never seen before, ever? It just over and over and over again, and they keep on showing him throughout the whole movie. He probably has like 30 minutes out of 2 hours of screen time. It is so useless and pointless to have him in the movie. And then we see the killers come onto the beach, and they kill him over and over again. They're like, oh no, he's still alive, he's still alive. A lot of the joking in this movie is just people do things, and then they repeatedly do them over and over and over again. Like, it would be like, ha ha ha, that's really funny, ha ha, that's really funny, ha ha, that's really funny, ha ha, that's really funny. And then I would say the next line over and over and over again. You know, that's what this movie does the entire 2 hours. I mean, this is a 2 hour long comedy movie. It felt like it was 12 hours. It was oh. So then we see there is kind of a funny scene where he's talking to a police officer about what happened. You know, they pulled him over for speeding or something, and it is actually a funny scene because there's all these cops and they keep on pulling up on the scene, and they're arguing about what the guy did and what codes he broke, because none of them actually know the police code. And so, like, it gets so ridiculous. There's like 5 or 6 cops that are just arguing about this, and you know, he just pulls away and leaves, and he's like, whatever, I'm not going to tell you guys anything. And keep in mind, I was liking the movie at this point. I was like, you know what, this is like a C+, B- movie. And then he made a phone call, and he was having all this trouble connecting to the police or anyone. Like, he could not get to the person he wanted to talk to, and that was pretty funny and pretty frustrating. And by the way, like, this wardrobe that Jerry chose for himself is just like the ugliest, just like ew. Like, I mean, he really. It's weird because you look at and keep in mind, I don't think that starring in your own movie that you wrote is a bad thing, because that's what I'm doing, obviously. I don't think it's inherently a bad thing. It's a bad thing when you do it the wrong way and when you do it for the wrong reasons. And in this movie, you can kind of tell this has all the makings of a bad, egocentric person's movie where it's just all about them, and it's like, me, 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 me. And a prime example is the wardrobe that he wears in this movie is just so horrendous, because you can tell he's just wearing like clothes that he likes to wear in real life. Like, it would be like if I walked onto a movie set wearing a Captain America t-shirt and shorts for the scene. Like, no, obviously I'm not going to do that. In fact, I even talked about that in the thing that I wrote, the little piece that I'm still writing, and I mentioned how, all the clothes that I'm wearing in the movie are clothes that I never actually wear in real life. And so it's kind of funny that, like, oh, now I'm finally wearing those clothes. It's because I'm just wearing them for the stupid scenes, and then I'm fucking ripping them off afterwards and throwing them in the trash and setting it on fire. JK. But the wardrobe he wears, he's got this ugly, like, he just looks like a I don't know, like, I don't even know, like, I know somebody with like roast I don't know, roast game, I don't know how you call it, somebody with a lot of comedic background would be able to roast the shit out of this awful costume. Like, you think about Neil Breen in his movies, the type of clothes he likes to wear. He's got that black leather jacket, because leather is cool to some people. and then you have like Tommy Wiseau in The Room, and he's got his black tank top, and you can just tell that these people are putting on clothes to make themselves look cool. But in this movie, in Jerry Lewis's The Big Mouth, he is just so uncool that he thinks that the clothes that would make him cool are these boring fucking 50-year-old dad clothes, like this shirt, this boring white bread shirt, and this red rain jacket, and these long, like, ugly ass fucking white pants, these fucking khaki pants. And he just looks like just the epitome of a square. He looks like just awful. He looks terrible. He looks like a joke. He looks like a narc. It's just terrible. And it's like, he's got these rings too. He loves to wear these rings, and you could just tell he's just wearing clothes that he likes wearing in his own personal life. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's just not okay. Like, when you're making a movie, you have to play a fucking character. And okay, the rain jacket makes sense, but I swear to God, this is the ugliest fucking outfit I've ever seen. And it's abysmal. So then there's this funny scene where he goes to this hotel where, the treasure map tells you to go to the hotel. And he goes to this hotel and he meets this girl, and she's very nice, and she's a very, like, pleasant person, from what it seems, but I swear to God, by the end of the movie, I was so sick and tired of her because the way that she was written as a character was just atrocious. Like, she was so one-dimensional, and she was so, like, I'm just here to be a love interest, and I'm just throw me in here and throw me in there, and then at the end we can kiss and we can walk off on the beach, and then I don't know, after that he meets her, and she drops all these packages, and there's the really funny bit where he picks them all up, and he just has to keep on picking up packages and packages. And so, as I said, a lot of the humor in this movie is all about just doing the same thing over and over again in a really dry way. And there's even this funny part where, he picked up all the packages. And I don't know if he wrote this into the script. I would like to hear if he did or not. But it is pretty weird, okay? It reminded me of another movie that I was recommended called Rhinoceros. But in that movie, you could tell it was for a joke. In this, I have no idea. So he picked up all the packages, and then he goes back on the ground, and he's already picked them all up, and he goes back on the ground, and he fondles her ankle, like he puts his left hand on her ankle, and he just like rubs it down, and then he stands up, and it's like, oh my God, what is going on here? Like, oh yeah, and he's got like golden shoes, or they're special shoes. Oh, and then yeah, oh my God, what kind of face is that? Okay, I have to take a picture of this because you can tell if you see the face that this guy is making on camera, you can tell that this was not written into the script by the way that he leans back down again to touch and fondle her ankle, and this time it's the other ankle. I mean, what the this is bad. And so I gotta take a picture of this, so 1 second. So after that, this is kind of when the movie starts to fall apart a little bit, because you're thinking, okay, this guy has a treasure to find. He's got to run away from the bad guys and do all this stuff. And he has this interaction with the hotel clerk where it doesn't really even make sense. Like, a lot of the problems in this movie is that the directions that the story goes in, the direction that the dialogue goes in, it doesn't make sense. Like, there are so many times in the movie where I'm just sitting there like, wait, what? Wait, why? Like, so many times like that where I'm just have no idea what's going on. And so he drops a statue on the hotel clerk's foot on accident. But then we get probably the most shocking thing about the whole movie, which I don't even know why people don't talk about this, because it deserves to be talked about. I mean, it's a part of history. The real original Colonel Sanders is in this movie somehow. It is one of the only like 4 or 5 movies that he ever appeared in, and his cameo is pretty good, and it's just so bizarre. He just pops up out of nowhere and he leaves, and it's like, oh, there goes one of the only good things about the movie. So then we're introduced to the bad guys. We have the main guy. He's a really, recognizable face. He has this kind of 1940s mafia boss look to him, and he's got a very like beefy face, and he looks, I guess intimidating, but he was terrible in this movie. He had no funny jokes, And he has all these henchmen of various levels of mental retardation, and we will talk about each and every one because all of them have their own downfall. What's really funny though is that one of the henchmen, or I guess henchmen in quotes because nothing ever really happens to her that's bad, is this blonde woman, and she's the typical character in like a comedy movie where she goes undercover to seduce the main guy and to put him in compromising situations. And it's really hilarious because she looks exactly like blonde-haired Christina Ricci. And I thought, this is really weird. Like, she looks exactly like her in every way, shape, or form. The only difference is that they have different voices. Like, that is the only difference. It's so weird. And so we constantly see the bad guys on the ship, the boat, talking about what they have to do and where the treasure is, and just boring. But then, that is when the pain begins. So, I have never seen the Nutty Professor movie, the original one, or the remake. And I don't even want to now after seeing this movie. Because it is the most annoying, obnoxious, like, what the fuck is this type of thing that's going on. So, Jerry Lewis, and I'm not even going to call him the character's name because he's not any character. He's just playing Jerry Lewis. He is not allowed to stay at this hotel, so the narrator has to explain that he went to a costume disguise shop and he got some fake glasses and fake teeth and a costume, and so now he is going to be disguising himself as the Nutty Professor for the rest of the movie, as well as being himself. And at this point, I legitimately thought about turning off the movie because I felt like, what the fuck is he doing here? Why is he putting this character into this movie? It makes no sense. It's like it became an entirely different movie. You know, at first, they try to have this running theme and message where nobody will listen to him. You know, nobody will take him seriously. Nobody will hear him out about this treasure map. And it's like, I don't even see you putting any effort to tell people about this treasure map. All I see you doing is doing stupid shit like this, like dressing up like the Nutty Professor and infiltrating this hotel so that you can stay at the hotel and talk to that girl and just, ugh. So, we see that, and it just, ugh. And then we see his hotel room, his supposed hotel room, and it is probably one of the weirdest hotel rooms I have ever seen. It doesn't look anything like a hotel room. It's very weird. It's very weird in 1960s and in a bad way. They have these twirly pink stairs. They have like this weird, almost like Hawaiian half-Z's look to it, and the wall looks like it's fake, and that there's like, it's a 2-level, it looks like a house, like it looks like a beach house. It does not look like a hotel room at all. It just looks so fake and tacky and phony, and it's awful. And I'm railing against this movie. I mean, I know that this just came out of nowhere, but this movie pissed me off. It still pisses me off. The more and more I am watching this movie as I'm reviewing it, the more and more I just want to spend 6 hours ripping this movie to shreds. Like, this movie's so bad. And there's just this comedy with him where this is another weird thing too. He's in a disguise so that he can check in at the hotel, but then he's playing dumb too. Like he's not even pretending like he's a normal person. He's smart and intelligent like he is in real life. He is he's pretending like he's as stupid as like the Nutty Professor character. And so it's really frustrating. As I said, it's like nails on a chalkboard. And part of the frustration of this movie is the pacing. You know, it has all the elements to make a really good movie. And I thought it was going to be a really good movie. I wanted it to be a really good movie. I did think the first 20 minutes were good. But it starts to happen where things just, they don't really go anywhere. Like, it's 30 minutes into the movie, and the bad guys are tearing apart their own ship, their own boat, so that they can find the supposed treasure. I mean, why? Like, why are they doing this? Like, if you wrote a script, why would this happen at this point in the script? It makes no sense whatsoever. It's like he's just padding out time because he doesn't have anything else for them to do at the moment. So they're going to be there in the ship. So then we're going to have this back and forth too, where he's got to pretend like he's Jerry staying at the hotel, and then he's got to be the Nutty Professor for the hotel clerk, and so he's got to interact with the love interest. And it's really too bad for her, because I wonder if she's been in anything good. It's Susan Bain Nimoy. She's related to Leonard Nimoy, I guess. Or she might be his wife, or was his wife. I don't know. He was able to get a lot of people in this movie. Like, he had a lot of pull. And see, that's another thing, too, is that it's so funny how people pretend like the only egocentric Hollywood movies are these ones that are made by, like, small-time, like, amateur filmmakers. You see a movie like this, he's able to get the real Colonel Sanders. He got George Takei to be in the movie in a random role. He got the guy who played Ernest T. Bass to be in a random role. He was able to get, like, basically anyone he wanted, it felt like. And it's like, why? Like, what movie has he made that was so good that would lead him to this? Like, what the hell? Like, this movie is such a disaster. So he organized, and this is the other frustrating fucking thing. It's starting to really make me mad. And I do think that he has talent. It's just that not in this movie. You know what I mean? Like, if I was basing my opinion of him off of this movie, it would be, this guy's a piece of crap. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Clearly. And I'm sorry if that, if people would disagree. I would love to see him in a better movie. So if you knew of any movie that was of his that was worth watching, then I would be all open to watching it. It's frustrating because he's supposed to be looking for this treasure. He promised this guy that he was going to look for it, and that he was on the path to helping him out and to getting the treasure before the bad guys get it. And what does he do? He organizes a sailing boat date with the love interest, which leads to probably some of the most stupidest comedy in the whole movie. He pushes her off when he's supposed to get on with her, and then he he gets down and he stretches out so much that it's like a cartoonish level of like stretching where it's like you can tell it's fake, you can tell that it's a gag, and it's like a cartoon. His legs are stretched out like that. You can tell this is fake. This is really stupid. It's like, what did they put, two boards in his pants or outstretched? It's so weird. But that's not the stupidest part. The stupidest part is that then one of the henchmen comes over and it's like, oh shit, he's gonna think that Jerry Lewis is that other guy. And another thing too is that at the beginning of the movie, they make sure to let you know that he looks like that other guy so that, oh, maybe it's going to be like a classic Hitchcockian movie where it's all about how the wrong guy is being targeted and he's got to escape from it. He's got to prove that he's not the one and, take out the bad guy. No. It's basically just used for comedy. And like the bad, I don't know what that was. The bad guys were going to target him anyway because he had the treasure map. So the henchman comes over and he sees him fall into the water and he freezes, and he just freezes in place like a dog, and he's like bent over and he's on his knees and he's like a dog for the rest of the movie. Well, okay, so there was a fire truck and an ambulance out in front, and I don't know what they're doing. I just hope somebody didn't watch this movie and they had a bad reaction to it, like when they were filming Better Call Saul, the worst episode of the series, or one of the worst episodes, and, there was a really bad reaction to filming that movie. That episode. So there's like this constant running joke in the movie where a henchman will see Jerry Lewis and he'll think he's the other guy and he'll freeze up or something weird will happen to him and he'll basically unravel as a person. And I get it as a concept, and it is a really funny concept, but the way that it's executed is really piss poor because it's really dopey, and the pacing is terrible. Where this is 30-something minutes into the movie, and we're just on this casual boat date with this girl when he's supposed to be searching for this treasure, and it's like, F you. So then we see more of him and the girl talking, and it's like, oh, well now let's go play tennis. This is where the movie gets really, really dumb. So Christina Ricci 2, let's just call her. I'll call her Christina Ricci Jr. Even though she's older. I swear to God, guys, it is the most uncanny resemblance I have ever seen to a celebrity. It is so dead on. It's actually frightening. And like, if you guys saw this right now, you would freak out. So he has to get tennis lessons so that he can play tennis with the girl. And once again, this is almost an hour into the movie. He doesn't even give a fuck about the treasure. He's taking tennis lessons, and it's like, once again, ego. Because what am I thinking? I'm thinking Jerry Lewis, he likes sailing, so he had to have a sailing scene in the movie. He likes tennis, so he had to have a tennis scene in the movie. And so the bad girl works at the hotel, and she is the tennis instructor. And Jerry Lewis comes over to the tennis court dressed as the Nutty Professor, and they proceed to have this dopey, dumb, goofy sequence where he doesn't know what to do, and, it's like, ugh. And then they do slow motion where he can't hit any of the balls, and it's like, what is supposed to be funny about this? Like, what is so humorous here? Like, it's just so bad. It's infuriatingly bad. And it's not because I'm 24 and the movie is from the 60s. Because, I just reviewed Beverly Hillbillies Season 1. I gave it a fantastic review. Practically, blew the show live on air. And then, I watched this movie. It's from a couple of years later. And it's a piece of trash. It's not because of it's from the 60s at all. So don't even come at me with that, because that's not an excuse with this movie. And then we continue to see the barking guy, and we have Jerry Lewis run into the hotel staff a couple of times, and we have the whole miscommunication with that. There are a couple of funny jokes, I will admit, like Jerry Lewis launches into the air like a rocket and he lands on the beach because he jumps off of the tennis court thing. But there's this really weird dinner scene with the bad guys, and it was really pointless and bad. But there was this one thing that stuck out to me, where the bad guy on the left, he tore this piece of bread in half, almost like when you eat like soup and you want to dip bread in soup, and maybe you tear it in half so that you can, just dip in the one half first. Well, he takes a bite of one half and then he throws the other half on the floor. And I was like, is this an attempt at the humor that they did in Rhinoceros? Because it really is like a piss poor attempt at humor. And then he gets another piece of bread, and it's like, oh, he throws the other half on the floor too. So, okay, this must have been on purpose, some sort of, like,
that'd be really funny. I'm Jerry Lewis.
Wouldn't that be funny if I did a full show just pretending that I was Jerry Lewis? It would be probably better than this entire movie combined. So then we have this whole goofy sequence where another henchman somehow runs into Jerry Lewis, and he sees him in the telephone booth, and his hair like stands up straight and at the sides like he just got electroshocked, and he is permanent, and all of his teeth fall out, and he's got like this black goo in his mouth, and he's talking like a Black Lodge person from Twin Peaks, and he's just completely like that the rest of the movie. So that's another person for the rest of the entire movie is totally just, they're so shocked that the character from the beginning could still be alive that they're just permanently like traumatized. So as I said, it's a funny concept, so that's why I'm laughing. I'm not laughing at the movie. I just want to make you guys aware of that. So then what does he do? What's this fucking guy do? Oh. He goes on another date with the girl. And this time he takes her to SeaWorld. Oh, SeaWorld. Like, oh. And so, okay. This is another place that Jerry Lewis likes in person. SeaWorld. Like, ugh. It's like we're watching Jerry Lewis in real life take a girl out. And in the meantime, he's kind of like telling her about this crappy movie he's working on. He's like,
I'm working on this movie called Big Mouth, and it's gonna be a really funny picture about this guy who's trying to find a treasure. But then he doesn't really put much effort into finding the treasure. He puts more effort into finding some pussy.
So then he's back with the girl at home, and what happens next? I'm just kind of skimming through the movie as I'm reviewing it too. what happens next is that Christina Ricci Jr. is given the job of putting the main guy into a compromising situation and kind of like, I guess, extorting him, whatever. So she takes the nutty professor to SeaWorld. This is where we are introduced to what a lot of people consider to be the worst part of the movie, because they claim that it's racist, even though, I would disagree. I mean, it's for comedy. It's not because it's hateful. It's not because it's, like, against Asians as people. But they have a white guy, and he's playing this, like, Asian drug lord or something. And they make these fake clams, and George Takei is one of the clam makers, the pearl makers. And they actually kill George Takei because he screws up, and so there is kind of like a dark scene that really doesn't fit in with the movie, where all of a sudden, in this comedy movie, they lift up George Takei and they put him in this boiling chemical stuff and they kill him. And it's like a really dark scene, and it's just like all out of nowhere, completely doesn't fit in with the rest of the story. Meanwhile, Jerry, the nutty professor, is at SeaWorld again with this blonde girl, and he gets a pearl necklace for her or something, and I'm just trying to figure out, like, why? I mean, why is this? It's so bad. The point of showing this Asian guy is that he is actually working with the bad guys, and so they're supposed to give him the diamonds or something. I don't know. There's no attempt to make sense of any of what's going on. It's just like you're supposed to follow whatever dumb ideas Jerry Lewis had while he was sitting on his yacht, fucking hanging out with some 6 out of 10s. And then he has this other outfit that he wears for the rest of the movie, where it's like this ugly 1960s black, like, V-neck shirt and this red turtleneck underneath it. Or is it a turtleneck? No, turtlenecks are cool. And then he's got those long, ugly-ass white pants on. I mean, it's just, he came up with the most fucking ugliest outfit. He did not do that on purpose, because let's look up, what did he look like in person? Jerry Lewis walking around town. Let's see, what did he look like? What did he dress like on? Because I remembered that he looked exactly like this when he did King of Comedy. He had the exact same type of wardrobe. I mean, come on, where is it? They're just showing pictures of him in suits. I know he just didn't like wearing suits. Come on. Let's be real here. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. It's all the same fucking thing. It is the most ugliest clothing. I mean, this is some of the absolute worst clothing that I have ever seen a person willingly dress themselves in. I mean, I don't think it's for a joke either, because this is just him in person, and he's wearing clothes like he's Ronald McDonald or something. It's like Ronald McDonald crossed over with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So next, there's another guy who sees him, and this guy kind of looks like Roy Schneider from Jaws. And I heard that apparently he got the role in this movie because he did a really funny bit on his comedy show, the Jerry Lewis Show. And so it's really too bad, as somebody on IMDb said, it's really too bad that this is the movie he got to be in, because it seemed like he was pretty good, And but he has this bit in the movie where it is like the most painful bit that goes on for like 5 minutes, and he's just like twitching, and he's like, and he's malfunctioning as a person, and it's like you can tell that this is a person trying to do something funny rather than somebody doing something funny because it's funny. It's like you can tell this is very forced and very awkward and dry, and there's not even any music except for this awful 60s music. And then we are introduced to a character who, he's got this mustache, and he looks a lot like one of the people who was in Licorice Pizza. He looks like the guy who owned the restaurant and who did the funny dialogue that people were offended over. He's this escaped mental patient, and this is an hour and 5 minutes into a 2-hour movie, and finally Jerry Lewis decides to talk about the treasure map, and he talks about it with this random guy, and the guy's like, you know what, I'm actually the president of the United States. And then the people from a sanitarium come and take him away. And it's like, oh, I get it, ha ha ha. The only person who would listen to Jerry Lewis is a mental patient. Ha 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 ha. So there were a lot of funny jokes like that could have been good if they were executed well, but as I said, they were so dragged out, they were so dry that it was impossible to laugh at them and to take them like as they were meant to be. And then there's this really long extended sequence where it turns out that there were these guys. The reason why the treasure map said to go to the hotel is because the other guy had organized to sell the diamonds to these gangsters who would come to the hotel and buy them. And the gangsters are at this hotel, and they're wondering, why isn't Jerry Lewis giving them their diamonds that he promised them? And they have this sequence where he's fooling around with them, and he's stalling them, and then his girlfriend comes in, and she actually gets that mental patient to come in and rescue them. And what I did think that there was some funny stuff in that sequence, but it was still kind of painful. But the reason why I liked it is because there's 26 minutes left in the movie, and finally this love interest character who, it's really unfortunate that she was in this crappy movie. She finally does something useful. She finally does something that a character would do, and she helps him out. And I actually thought that was cool. And then they run away, and they get caught by the main bad guys. And this is where the movie falls apart into complete and utter embarrassment. We have these kabuki dancers, and once again, a lot of people going to be offended because they're putting on a show, and they're, dressed in these costumes that are quote-unquote insensitive, but they're really not, because who fucking cares? I mean, if you're offended by this movie, you should go jump off a cliff, because like, if this movie offends you, anything could offend you. Like, you just can't take this movie seriously. Like, the whole movie is just so painfully bad. To focus in on this one thing in the movie is a mistake, because you're doing a disservice to yourself by pretending like this one element is worse than the rest of the movie. Like, it's really weird. Jerry dresses up as another kabuki dancer, and this was so bad. It was like the sequence in Tropic Thunder, and Tropic Thunder's a really good movie, so, but this is not. And so, he's doing this, like, kabuki, performance or something, and it's all to distract and to pretend like he's not there or whatever, and then he gets caught, and he gets sorry, people keep on texting me, and it completely throws me off what I'm saying. He gets out of this situation really fast, and at this point in the movie, I was kind of zoned out. Like, I was having my cookies and milk, and I was like, I'm done with this movie. I'm done with trying to take it seriously and to try to enjoy it, because I mean, he never even tries to find the diamonds or anything. I mean, it's just such a fucking I don't know, like, it's such a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. And I bet the whole kabuki dance thing is some sort of stand-up comedy thing he's done before. He's just showing off. And he gets out of these bad guys' hands in like 2 seconds. In like a really, really dopey, unrealistic way. And he just says, "Look over there," and he runs off. And the worst part to end all worst parts is when he gets taken by a helicopter. His girlfriend and the bellboy from the hotel, they bring him a helicopter, and finally they crash on a beach. And this is where all the bad guys are chasing them. And they think that they're safe at first, though. And so they start to kiss. And it's like, oh, yay. The love interest is with the main guy. Even though it wasn't earned at all. It was just shoehorned in there. Because Jerry Lewis was like,
This is a real movie, so we gotta have this scene at the end where the good guy gets with the good girl.
Like, I don't understand, like, what that guy's thought process was making this movie. Like, this movie is so bad, it deserves to be on Red Letter Media's Best of the Worst show on YouTube. That's how bad this movie is. And I never say anything like that. Like, I never say, I think the last time I said that was, like, when I watched George Romero's Amusement Park. This movie takes the cake. Like, this is just abysmal. And the bad guys are all chasing them on the beach, and you're wondering, how are they going to get out of this situation where, there's 3 minutes left in the movie, and they haven't even found the treasure. They haven't defeated the bad guys. They haven't done jack shit besides hang out and have these miscommunications with the Nutty Professor character. And honestly, I think the Nutty Professor subplot should have just been completely thrown in the trash. But the most awful ex machina comes ever, in the form of, you have all these characters, you have one gang, you have another gang, you have another gang, and all of a sudden, just because they're on the beach, the guy from the beginning of the movie washes up on shore. He wakes up even though he was supposed to be dead, and then the bad guys all chase after him. And then we see a cringeworthy shot of the main character and the love interest walking off into the sunset on the beach. And we see the narrator, and the narrator says, "This is all true. You should believe me because I'm somebody you can listen to." And then he walks off, and we see that the whole time he was in his underwear, he's in his underwear now, and it's like, oh, ha 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 ha. But the most cringeworthy part is the very end of the movie, where we just see them walking along on the beach into the sunset, and it just feels like it was so unearned and it was so cringeworthy that after all of this crap that meant nothing, the only thing that comes out of it is like, oh, he's with this girl, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess they kind of deserve each other. Both of them are kind of stupid characters, and both of them don't even care that they could get like millions of dollars from these diamonds that aren't even theirs to begin with, and it's just like, oh, I don't know. This movie was terrible. And this ending here, where they're walking on the beach, it reminds me a lot of the movie The Warriors. If you guys have ever seen the masterpiece movie The Warriors, it ends with the same thing where the main guy, Swan, walks off into the sunset on the beach with the love interest. But the difference is that in that movie, it was good because, God, why do people keep texting me while I'm doing videos? The difference is that these characters, they earn that ending. You know, they earn the right to walk off into the sunset at the end and to relax and to have a happy ending. These two characters, they didn't do jack shit to earn any happy ending. They didn't do anything to deserve anything. I guess they just deserve each other. So in terms of food, I never even thought about what food I should give this movie because I was just thinking of how bad it was and how I don't even want to talk about it. This movie is like food poisoning personified. So I'm actually going to rate this movie food poisoning. So the other day, I was having cereal for breakfast, and right off the bat, we got this cereal from CVS. Right off the bat, there was something off about it because the box, part of the flap was opened. And then the bag on the inside was weird too. The bag was a little bit deflated, and it was a little bit like, you could tell it just was not right. And I took a bite of the cereal. It tasted very off and very weird. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm just like, I don't know. And maybe I can take a second bite and it'll taste like normal. And then I took a second bite and it tasted 10 times worse. To the point of where I was like, okay, I am not eating this cereal. Well then, in the middle of the day, I got lunch, and I took the lunch home, and I couldn't even eat the lunch at all. I got this lunch for nothing, because I was in severe pain from this food poisoning that I had gotten from this cereal, and I was in such pain that it was terrible. And I thought, what would have happened if I would have eaten the whole bowl? I would have been in a pretty bad place, even like right now, days later. So I was really thankful I only took 2 bites. And I was in the bathroom over and over and over again. I couldn't even watch videos. Like, I couldn't even watch a movie or a TV show because I'd have to get up and go to the bathroom and get up and go to the bathroom. And it was so terrible, the discomfort, the feelings. It was just the worst thing ever. And I hardly had anything to eat for dinner. I was just drinking water, drinking Gatorade a little bit, and then I threw up multiple times, and I was doing both things at the same time, and it was really bad. And it reminded me of this movie because It's like the lunch in the middle of the day is what this movie could have been. But then you get that food poisoning and it just completely destroys that lunch and the rest of the day, and it just makes everything a miserable experience. I mean, I was pissed off. I got fucking Dorito Loco Taco, and I wanted that Dorito Loco Taco, and that was irritating. And that's what this movie is like. This movie is like being absolutely sick with food poisoning. And I'm not exaggerating in any way, shape, or form. This movie was horrendous. It deserves to be talked about how bad it was. I've heard from some people that it might be Jerry Lewis's worst movie, but I really hope there's nothing that's worse than this. So anyways, please like this video, comment, and tell me what you thought of the Big Mouth movie, because a lot of people really like this movie. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest reviews like this. Goodbye everybody, see you soon.